What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Kings and Priests podcast. So you know what's cool? First of all, welcome. Thanks for listening. I'm here with Dean Sweetman, my incredible co-host. So it's been a crazy month. So I hadn't really normally every couple weeks I'll look into the analytics of the podcasts, each individual one. You know, we have a bunch, and I normally look top line. This podcast has doubled in reach in the last 6 or 8 weeks. So I don't know why or how or where someone found it, but welcome to all the new all the new listeners. It's good to have you here.
I mean, it's a great podcast, and we talk about faith and business.
Yep.
We riff on the issues of the day.
Yep.
And I pontificate with my 58 years of wisdom and mistakes and failure and success. And that's a good combo. And you're you come up with you're fresh, your fingers on the pulse, of what's going on in business and tech and all this stuff.
We chop it up. It's fun. So if you are new, welcome. I think there's almost 70 episodes at this point. So go back through.
Amazing.
They're all up on the feed, all up on YouTube. And I think you'd learn a lot. So
I was talking to a buddy of mine in Australia last week, and he quotes the podcast, something that we said. And I'm like, dude, do you listen? He goes, dude, I listen every week. I'm like, that's great, man.
You know what's so funny? So disclaimer, I'm not comparing Kings and Priests to the All In podcast as I tell this story. I don't want that to be.
We're just a notch under.
Yeah, just a notch under. I have just maybe 1-0 less than those guys, in my network.
Yeah.
But so, my little brother works at a comms firm that basically represents VCs and startups generally in Series B to D to IPO kind of world, right? Cool. And he's like, it's hilarious. He's like, it is hilarious how I will listen to the podcast on a Friday or Saturday. Yep. And then Wednesday or Thursday, I'll be in a meeting with a client, CEO of a big company, prepping them for some interview with some big tech publication. And he goes, and it is without fail, if they are a dude above the age of 25 or 30, they are regurgitating ideas from the All In podcast. And I have to tell them, hey, we need to reword this and make it at least sound like something that you came up on your own, came up with.
Fresh and different.
So
funny. Did I tell you I'm going to the summit?
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Sick. That sold out so quick too.
I know. I just bought a VIP and just going to go.
You got to at least play in one of the poker games. Make sure you play in.
Oh yeah. No, I'm going for the
one
full
of the
thing.
Games.
I got to get a bunch of clothes because apparently it's there's themed every night.
Oh, got it.
And I gotta flipping, but it's only 10 minutes from my house in LA.
Oh, that's right. This one's in LA.
Yeah, it's in UCLA. So
nice. That'll be awesome. And that's coming up in a couple months, right?
Well, I have a golf trip with the mates up in Whistling Straits. Mm-hmm. And so I fly back in my neighbor's jet back to Salt Lake, give the wife a quick kiss, and then head to LA on Sunday for Sunday night for the All In. So it's gonna be good.
That's gonna be awesome. We'll have to get a full breakdown afterwards.
Oh yeah. No, the episode after that next week is gonna be epic. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, the speakers are insane. Ray Dalio's gonna be there. Tons of crazy
all the favorites.
I'll tell you someone who probably won't be there is Dave Portnoy. Although maybe Dave Portnoy should be there.
Yeah.
So
he's just pulled up the biggest coup ever.
It is just that guy. Talk about a guy with 12 lives. I mean, so if you don't know much about Barstool Sports, so I'm actually not a big Barstool Sports fan in a sense of
I'm not
their
a big
sports
consumer.
Coverage. I'm not either. They have a golf franchise that's fun because it's
they've
got a real Rappaport's on it, but then it's him and 4 of his kind of friends, and they do these videos where they try and break 90 on the golf course, and so that's probably the only franchise of theirs that I keep up with.
Right.
But I do think what they've built is pretty brilliant, and I think Dave Portnoy, for all of the things he does that are just the antics, he's a genius.
I mean, he's just a genius of personal branding.
Yes, exactly.
Let's just Like that's what he does.
Yeah.
He
He's
had a brand that was basically dissing Roger Goodell of the NFL, and he was just taking him down. And he built this persona of this guy, and he spins it into this kind of sports network that he sold for $500 million. He just got it back for $1.
Yeah. So and this is what's so funny is like, and I may be getting parts of the timeline wrong, but at the beginning of COVID, everyone's day trading stocks, right?
Right.
And Dave Portnoy, he just starts live streaming himself. Yeah. He called himself Davey the Day Trader, and he would just whatever. And he keeps bringing up pin gaming. And all of a sudden it comes out, Pin's buying Barstool Sports, deal valued at $500 million, $225K up front, and then $225K after a few years. Now, Pin is like, you probably wouldn't have even know a Penn casino because most of them are locals.
I never heard
local, like low to mid tier casinos. But you know what they do own is the M Life, I believe. Let me double check that because I think that's kind of probably like maybe the nicest one they own. Yeah, they do. So they do own M Resort in Vegas. So
I ran a couple of conferences there.
Yeah. We're both familiar with Penn, but they're not like, you have sort of Wynn and Encore and Bellagio and then MGM in terms of quality. And then you go down to Caesars and then you kind of have all these like sort of lower.
The M is a great option in Vegas if you don't want to be on the Strip.
Like, it is. It's really good.
Tip. Yep. If you're in Vegas and you want to stay out of the crazy, you go to the M.
It's really nice. But that's probably their like nicest property.
Right.
Most of them are very local and kind of simply for gaming. And so, it kind of made sense that they would buy Barstool. And the whole play was sports betting, right? Because sports betting has
taken off. Like it used to be pretty like super, like low, like it is in the shadows, and just in
totally
Vegas,
illegal,
Atlantic City, right? And then it just all of a sudden because of mobile, and they put it all on the internet, and they just kind of democratized sports betting. I don't bet on sports, but I
actually don't either. I don't know that I've ever bet. I may have bet $10 on a Cowboys game, but I never have either.
Yeah, I mean,
I know people that have. My brother-in-law bets hockey fairly regularly, just not like $100 at a time or whatever, but. It ruins the sport. It ruins it for me.
Yeah. Let me give you my 2 cents on betting.
Yep.
Like walk down the Strip in Vegas and you see all those buildings all paid for by losers.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So just embed that in your brain and then you won't bet.
Yeah. You're not going to win.
The thing I do is like, I'll get $100 and put it on red on a roulette wheel and that's it. And and it spins, and I'm probably even, right?
Yep.
Because it's like red or black. It's like you got two choices. So I don't. But I did do a little betting on the horses. I will say back in the day in Australia, Aussies are big kind of horse betting, but never serious. So stay away from it. It's not a place to put money.
Did you see this? By the way, did you see this allegation that Phil Mickelson has lost $100 million over the course of his career? Betting
his reputation,
and this guy said he bet on the Ryder Cup when he was playing.
He
said that's not true. Who knows?
Yeah, he came out and said it's not true. Like I'm a Mickelson fan through and through because I love what he's done with Liv, but like whatever.
So
anyway,
so Portnoy, So okay, the thing about Portnoy is he's just always been a firebrand. There's been some hit pieces that have come out about him that paint him in not an illegal light, but a not so flattering light. And he's just like, I never said I was a good person. I'm a degenerate, and this is what I do. And he's just, he plays the game. So he gets bought by Barstool. I mean, he gets bought by Penn, $551 million in 2020, and then all of a sudden, last week, out of nowhere, this news drops that Penn has become the official sports book for ESPN.
Right. Which is true.
Which is like, wait a minute, this doesn't make a lot of sense because ESPN and Barstool have had a massive beef ever since the beginning of Barstool, right?
Right.
And so so all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute. And like, I think it was just minutes or hours later, the headline comes out that Dave Portnoy buys back Barstool Sports for $1 from Penn National Gaming. Yeah. And the idea is that, when you're a casino, and you're a publicly traded company. That just doesn't mesh well with Dave Portnoy and Barstool Sports.
Well,
There's
all
just too many levels of regulation on every
that's
end
the problem,
for that to ever work, right?
And you can't cage a guy like Portnoy. He's going to say what he wants when he wants, and good for him.
Right.
And but you can't, there's all this regulation around casino, stuff. And yeah, it just wasn't a good fit. So ESPN, which is owned by Disney, acquires Penn, Barstool gets carved out, and Portnoy's got it back for $1, and now he can go and do what he wants to do.
Yeah.
And like now, he owns it all again.
Exactly. Now, here's the interesting part, because everyone was like, this is the deal of the century. How did Dave Portnoy do this? Of course, it just makes sense, right? Like the Penn deal's not going good. Stock's getting crushed. Dave knows, look, like they're going to have to get rid of me. And in order to do business with Disney, they're going to have to get rid of me. So he's kind of in the driver's seat. But then on Twitter, I found this guy, like a corporate attorney, kind of break down the actual deal itself. And what I want to do is kind of break it down and go, okay, is this as good of a deal as we thought? So Barstool Sports gets 8 million unique visitors a month, right? So it's big, but not like ESPN that gets 170 million, right?
Right.
Barstool Sports, I don't know what they're at. I don't know. But they've got a bunch of stuff. They've got seltzers and merch, and they've got a whole bunch of stuff associated with them. So they're a big company. But here's some like points in the deal that maybe make it not so great. So part of the deal is that Barstool has a non-compete with Penn. So before the Penn acquisition, the largest advertising client of Barstool was Sportsbooks, which is basically MGM's betting platform, DraftKings, like all of that stuff was their main advertiser. So this basically says they cannot compete, from my understanding, with whatever Disney and Penn agree to, like whatever their sports betting product is they come out with. From my understanding, that's the only advertising client in sports betting that Barstool can service. So if that's the case, that's maybe not the greatest deal. And then Barstool can't launch its own sports book, which I don't think they were ever going to be able to do anyway, because the regulations there are crazy. But then it says if Dave ever sells, Penn gets 50% of the proceeds.
Right.
So it's like, is this a great deal? It's probably a great deal for Dave, because Dave has probably made $100 million.
He got the front end. Yeah, and they're tying up 50% of his back end if he ever gets rid of it. Like, I mean, he doesn't care. He's just going to do his thing.
Exactly.
And pocket his hundreds of millions. So, and he's got no one. He doesn't have to answer to anyone. He can just do his thing. And, like, good for him, man. Like, I've seen him on a bunch of interviews. He's a wild dude. And, like, he's just this social media created personality who's opinionated about sports. It kind of started with football, American football. And, the guy's created an amazing kind of brand.
Company. Yeah, he has.
Right. So
what do you think this says about partnerships, right? So oftentimes in business, there's stress, there's problems that need to be solved. Oftentimes those problems can feel on the surface like they're going to be quickly solved with a partnership.
Yeah.
Right.
Partnerships are like,
and then once you're in a partnership, it's really hard to get out.
Well, look, 50-50 partnerships almost always end in disaster, in my opinion. 49-51 partnerships are better because someone is in control. It goes back to that, in my mind, that old kind of thought around leadership. Someone's got to be in control. So if you're going to go into a partnership and you got to be prepared, if you don't have the control, to be fine with that. And I actually think it works better when someone is in control, because I think that's how things get done and that's how leadership works. And you can't share that. Someone has to, when a hard moment comes, someone has to make a decision, and, the two people don't agree and someone has to decide, and like 50-50 is just there.
It's hard.
So the only time 50-50 works is in a marriage. And even that's hard. So, but yeah, I would avoid 50-50 partnerships, like the best scenario is get 20% equity partner that can fund the growth of whatever it is you're doing and give you advice, but ultimately you retain control of what you're building. That's the best way to do it.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And, you sort of have, obviously, a lot of people look at Dave Portnoy as this in the same way that they look at like a Kim Kardashian in terms of this like creator / entrepreneur. Like, you can't separate the personality from the brand.
Well, it's right? Yeah.
And people always use Dave as sort of this like creator economy example. And I always sort of say like, I don't really think that he is. I don't know that he's that, because he started the thing from day one. Like the Barstool is him, but then, the next thing we're going to talk about here is, Mr. Beast. So, and I get Mr. Beast, but I don't get Mr. Beast.
I'm with you, man. I've watched, I kind of heard of Mr. Beast about a year ago. Mm-hmm. I go, oh, what's this dude? He's like blows up YouTube. And I went on and looked at a few of his things, and I still don't get it.
Yeah.
But wow.
Yeah.
He is like a mastermind,
right? I mean, he's got a management company now, and he's got a couple holding companies, and he's got a venture fund. And I mean, he does all this stuff. So I don't remember how long ago it was. Let's say a year ago, he launches, in 2020, they launched Mr. Beast Burger, right?
So I saw that episode where he rents some like clapped out burger joint. I think it was in the South somewhere. I can't remember.
Like in a mall or something?
No, it was just standalone, like Old Hardee's or something, or Carl's Jr. And it looked nasty. And he's in there, and there is people, and he was giving away burgers through the drive-thru. Mm-hmm. And it was literally thousands of cars lined for miles trying to get these Mr. Beast burgers. Mm-hmm. And he was giving them away for free, which was obviously a great stunt. Mm-hmm. And so from there, I didn't follow it until this news came up last week about this lawsuit. But, he launches this Mr. Beast burger thing. Mm-hmm. And then he's getting like ghost kitchens involved. Mm-hmm. And it's
I'm looking here. The first physical opening location was in a mall in New Jersey, and 10,000 people showed up.
There you go.
On day one.
And
then it expanded to 1,700 locations. So that's huge. I mean, that's massive.
Massive.
So about a month ago, he goes on a tweet storm, and he said, if I had the ability to close Mr. Beast Burger, I would have done so a long time ago. Sadly, sometimes when you're young, you sign a bad deal. He then announces he's suing Virtual Dining Concepts, which is basically the network of the ghost kitchens, who are partnering with him to do this whole thing, right? Mm-hmm. They then hit back the next week with $100 million lawsuit, which I think was like 10 or 15 times the amount of his initial lawsuit. They say, this case is about a social media celebrity who believes his fame means that his word does not matter, that facts do not matter, and that he can breach his contractual obligations without consequence. He is mistaken. They say he has cost the company enormous financial harm, and that the burger restaurant's reputation has been completely destroyed. So they're in this big fight. I remember when this launched, when Mr. Beast Burger launched, it was the biggest win for the creator economy. Right. It was the example everybody looked to. You find a creator, you partner with them, they have distribution, you launch products in and around them, and then you see this happen. So it's interesting, right? Like these kind of lawsuits. But the question is somewhere along the line, somebody, whether it be the mouthpiece and the marketer or the actual operator, wasn't happy with the way the other person was doing their job. You build a business on a celebrity, and the celebrity says, I don't like this anymore. The business falls apart overnight. So what do you think about this? Like, we've talked a lot about creator economy because it has been such a buzzy industry in the last few years. Does this maybe show some of the cracks in what feels like these like sort of hacked together businesses just to kind of jump on someone's large distribution?
So I think it reveals some things about business that are fundamental. And one of them is, if you're going to sell something and create a brand and put your name behind it, it needs to be a few things. If we're talking food, consistent. Like, first of all, it has to like taste great. Mm-hmm. So the first, Mr. Beast burger probably tasted awesome. Mm-hmm. Then all of a sudden you're going to scale this. So now you have to have some kind of quality control around the burger. You know why McDonald's is so successful? When I was on the mission field back many years ago, and I'd be in some jungle preaching the gospel, and I'd come back to the major city, you know where I went to get something to eat? I went to McDonald's because I knew the Big Mac was going to taste pretty close to the one I was used to eating at home. Mm-hmm. So he's put his brand around. He's got this burger. The quality obviously starts to, falter here because he's like, this is inedible. Does a whole episode like the inedible burger. And these ghost kitchens who are making this burger and selling it through apps and whatever. Mm-hmm. It's like, so...
Oh, right. That's the whole other thing is they're selling it through an app and just delivering it to someone. So it's already cold by the time they get it. Like there's nothing about this that's setting it up for success.
I have a theory on like Uber Eats and DoorDash. Asian food and pizza are the only things that work. Like I've never bought a burger. Maybe I do get an occasional curry, but I throw that in the Asian category, South Asia. Mm-hmm. But like stuff that's easy to reheat, is the stuff that is the best. Like buying a soggy hamburger with fries. Can you imagine getting that like 45 minutes after it's come off the grill?
Yeah. Even Shake Shack's not good at that point.
No one's good at that. So you shouldn't do that. So that's a flawed strategy right there. I mean, your own personal experience should have told you that selling a burger on an app that's going to get there 30, 40 minutes after it's cooked, it's not going to be good. Where you're going to microwave it or something. Mm-hmm. So anyway, look, it's hard to scale. We all know that. Software is hard to scale, let alone food, let alone hamburgers, right? Like it's just hard. So and he was obviously, he could juice the brand so well to get thousands of people, to buy stuff, and it just couldn't scale. And, I was talking to a founder the other day and like, I said, what happens when people want 10,000 of these? And he looked at me and he's like, what do you mean? I go, well, that's the goal, right? Like, can you do 10,000 orders in a day? And he's like, no. I'm like, you do give me all these numbers on this business. And you haven't thought whether this thing can scale to the point where you can repetitiously go over and over and over and over again, like produce this thing at scale. And so scale's hard, man. And Mr. Beast was too popular. And then the Ghost Kitchen thing didn't work. And then the quality went down. And it'll be interesting to see the lawsuits coming out.
I know. It's wild. It's wild. It really does. Like you go back to just business fundamentals, and
not every business is supposed to have 2,000 franchises.
Right.
Like sometimes it's supposed to be 4 pizza shops.
Speaking of that, what the best, in my opinion, and I don't think it's a franchise, but Houston's, or it's now Hillstone. You've been there? There's one in Pasadena. There's one in Santa Monica. There's maybe 10 or 12 across the country. Yep. They have not expanded because the quality, it's kind of the same thing, right? You go, hey, you're either going to be like a place people know what they're getting and they like it and it's good, or all control goes out the window. 1,700 of these being run out of ghost kitchens and given to Uber drivers to go deliver is not
right.
I don't care who the celebrity is, right?
Yeah. You just can't keep up. And like having a one-off hamburger and then multiplying that millions of times so it stays the same and has the quality are 2 different things. So, it's no one's fault. It's just hard to try and do that stuff. And obviously no one really thought about it enough to make sure it could be, have the same quality every time. So.
Love it. Good stuff. Anything else? Anything you're reading, thinking about? What's as we close? What do we?
Yeah, man, it's an interesting time. Kind of coming out of summer here. Interesting. Just kind of look at the economy and trying to look what's happening out and about. I'm bullish in some respects of bouncing forward. I think it's going to be. Politics and everything over the next 18 months are going to be brutal. I'm not looking forward to that. Not that I'm making a political comment. I'm just saying I think it's just going to be tough. And it could be really tough in America, just with the division that we have here politically. You have extreme on both sides that kind of suck all the narrative. And I think the centrist, down the middle, common sense type people that are most of the people get drowned out and sucked into either of these extremes, left or right. So, I'm hopeful that the economy is not going to go into a terrible recession. I think we might have avoided that, but I'm not excited about the political division that's coming.
I know.
It's already here and it's going to get worse. I'm like, glad I live in Utah.
I know.
I can just camp out and hide and just do my thing. But man, it's going to be
you wonder at one point when people are just going to get tired of it, because
the problem is there's 20% on either side that are just so all in.
It's their sport. It's their hobby.
It's their whole life. Right. And I'm like, I have political views, but they're not, I wouldn't call them extreme. I would call them fairly commonsensical, conservative economically for sure. Socially, probably pretty moderate to conservative. But I just see the extremes and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a mess. So I'm not very excited about the next 18 months in America politically. I think it's going to be, So, but all the more reason why we just kind of keep our head down.
Put your head down. That's what I was about to say.
Do what you do, build your business, do your thing, love your family, love your children, and just work hard and go to church, give to your church, support your church, preach the gospel.
The basics, the fundamentals of life, believe it or not, actually work.
Yeah. And let's get through it.
Yep. I love it. Awesome. Well, hey, thanks for listening to another episode of the Kings and Priests podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast. kingsandpriests.io signs you up for our email list. And we'll see you right back here next week for another episode. Talk to you soon.
Later.